Remember a couple of months ago when I did the flamingo, I said that you can do all kinds of birds in a similar way. Well, today I'd like to create a duck, and I'm just going to cut out my duck shape out of this mottled whitish beigey kind of creamy color cloth. I'm going with the bird shape on the left hand side, but you can do a swan or a goose or whatever you like. If you cut things out slightly bigger than you think you need, you can refine the shape a little bit later. And now you can see where I've run into the problem with all that texture that I've already put in there. It's going to get covered up. Oh well. So to start securing my duck down, I decided to start with the tail feathers, and I'm doing long, narrow fly stitches to give the appearance of the feathers on the back end of the duck, the wings and the tail feathers at the end of the duck, similar to what I did with the flamingo a couple of months ago. Really long, narrow stitches, and as many as I like, and once I feel like I've got enough of those, I'm just going to do a whip stitch around the edge of my duck, just to secure it all the way around. We've done this a lot, but especially last month, there was a lot of the whip stitching and kind of just the really simple stitches, but this month we've had quite a few sort of more complicated stitches to work on. And once I've got all the way around, I'm going to give my duck a yellow beak because I feel like it. This is going to be another fly stitch for my beak, and I'm going to do a few and maybe a few straight stitches until I feel like the beak is bold enough. And then I thought my duck needed some little baby ducklings, and I happen to have the tiniest scrap of yellow cloth, and that's what I'm going to use for the base for my little ducklings. And as you can see, I've already got two in there, and I'm cutting out just a tiny little teardrop shape. It doesn't really need to be very specific, and I'm just going to put that teeny tiny blob like teardrop somewhere on my cloth there. It's going to be the third little duckling there. Got some yellow thread threaded on my needle, and this is so tiny that you breathe on it and it moves out of the way. And I'm going to do lots of scattered straight stitches, very similar to what we did way back months and months ago when we created our spiky puffer fish and our sea anemone there in the water. Similar stitches, just really random straight stitches that hang over the edge of my piece of cloth. Like most of the time when we do these straight stitches, they end right at the edge, and it gives a really clean edge to whatever we're stitching. But little ducklings and little baby birds are kind of fluffy, so to give that fluffy effect, I'm making these stitches hang off the edge. And it's really hard to see because they're so tiny, but trust me, they are there. And you know, my little chick doesn't need to have a lot of detail because I've got the big duck there. I think that these little blobs are pretty obviously ducklings, baby ducklings, so I'm not going to really worry about them being too literal. They're just blobs with little threads sticking out all over the place, and that's all it is. And I didn't even bother putting legs onto my ducks or my ducklings because in my head they're sitting in the sand, and I just didn't feel like putting legs on them. But if you want to, you could certainly do some little straight stitches coming out from the bottom to resemble legs, and that's it. That's all there is to it. And I'll just keep going with this until I feel like I've got enough stitches and everything's secured down quite well. You could do the same thing if your bird was a goose or a swan or some other kind of bird. If you wanted it to be more realistic, you could find out what colors those babies are. But I like the idea of the white duck with the little yellow ducklings. I think that those are images and shapes that people can easily identify with. You know, if you think about a flamingo, do you know what color a baby flamingo is? I don't. So if I saw some little random blobs beside a flamingo, would I necessarily know that they were supposed to be baby flamingos? Don't know. But you could certainly try it out if you want. Now, you wouldn't have the ducks underwater, but you could certainly put the ducks and the ducklings swimming in the water. And there you go. There is my little family of ducklings. And there may be more additions to it later. But for now, happy stitching. I will see you again next month. Bye for now.